Well, I was thinking about buying another Lakhovky multi-wave oscillator, and of course this is not like the full setup, but I have seen historical pictures of Lakhovky multi-wave oscillators that were similar to this, with one Tesla coil and one set of copper hoops, whatever you call those, array of copper circular wires that are set up with a gap in here. Tubes, I meant to say. I have seen historical pictures where one looks similar to this, and it was put in like a briefcase where a doctor could take this out to a patient portably without them coming to visit them in the office. So I think this thing does have effect. And I think this thing does have effect more than the violet ray, which I commented on before, that it was considered to be a quack device by the AMA as of 1952. But let me say something about the violet ray, which I think is actually weaker than this, but yet still effective. They're using it in for cosmetic purposes, whereby if you have a wrinkle or whatever it is, or a mole, they use a violet ray they sell today, not for medical purposes, but by beauticians. And it does work. It helps actually heal the skin. It helps get rid of crow's feet and everything. Now, I'm in my mid-60s. I don't have any wrinkles. I don't have any crow's feet sagging under my eyes, wrinkles on my forehead, or whatever the hell it is, smile lines and all other garbage. And I have used this sometimes, but I take a lot of vitamins, and also use that Parazapper a lot, which I swear gives you a hell of a lot more energy when you use it very extensively. That's probably the cheapest way to freaking get the energy. When I use this, though, I wear the tanning booth sunglasses, which block out the ultraviolet ray lights, because this does produce ultraviolet rays, and I keep it about, I don't know, I keep my head about, I don't know, 6 inches away from it, I say. You don't want to get too close to it. I'll turn it on here real quick. So, I use it for about 15 minutes a day now, and I'm going to use it for about a year before I decide to buy something else that's more powerful. But I have seen online where one that's probably pretty close to a real one, that is $4,800 delivered. I might, but you know what? It's not whether you can afford it or not. It's whether, is it going to do what the heck you need it to do, or what it says it's going to do. If you've seen all the, hey, if this thing makes you freaking live 20 more years or something, I'm going for it. That $4,800 is nothing for 20 more years of good health. if it does that, Also, if you look back in the 1950s and 1960s, something along this lines, Georges von Tassel, when he constructed that Integratron, I think that's the name of it, how you call it, Integratron. It's out in the Joshua Tree in California in the desert, not far from 29 Palms, or 29 Stumps as some people call it. There's not many trees out there. But that thing was supposed to add years of life to people so they'd be more productive. In other words, it would actually be an economic boost, because if you have very intelligent people that do not degrade due to aging, in other words, if you imagine Albert Einstein or Nikola Tesla or Albert Edison, Thomas Edison or whatever, or Raymond Rife, them living to be 150, 200 years old and highly productive. Could you imagine, with their body of knowledge added to their new scientific endeavors, what would have been developed? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I know a lot of times people want to live longer to be narcissistic, like the E! Channel on Hollywood and all that kind of garbage, but I was thinking about, and actually the device, the Integratron, I think that's how you say it. Not sure how you say it exactly, but that was constructed by Georges von Tassel. It was not completed. Georges von Tassel died 2 weeks before the completion date. It was also partially funded by Howard Hughes. But even that device today, although not operational, where it spins around, it's like a big building, it supposedly works off the same types of principles as this. It's still causes, there's been reports that mice that live in that building live many more years than normal. You know, so now how I think this device works, and I'll say this for two reasons why it's this method. I know there's several ways they freaking think this thing works. They think it's frequencies are causing all the array of frequencies coming off these coils is causing the body's cellular frequencies to rise. And it's true that that could possibly be true too. Like if you take, for instance, processed food, which is very bad for you, has a 0 frequency. Regular food has some frequency. Whole foods have a higher frequency. Herbs have an even higher frequency. And then when you have distilled essential oils at the top of the list, you have a very high frequencies, and they can perform health miracles. So maybe that is partially true. But I've saw 2 indications. I don't think that's the only thing that's going on. I think it's actually bringing in energies in and around us that are not in the visible light spectrum that are coming from the sun. The sun is actually a source of life. That not everything we understand, energies that we come from the sun are measured with scientific instruments. There's unknown energies. That's what's I think is going on. The reason is when this device was put in a Faraday cage, where the patient and the entire device was in the Faraday cage, it was not working as well. I know somebody remarked that the Faraday cage was causing interference between the coils and, you know, the individual here. But the other side of it is when this device is used at night during a no moon period, when there's no reflection of the sun's rays off the moon coming down to Earth, it doesn't work as well either. The other caveat is, you see this coil right here I'm wearing on my wrist, or even if you take one of these coils, just a single coil like this, and you had a regular plant, you know, that grows in the ground, right, a plant or bush or something, and say it was, you know, an orange tree or something, and you use one of these coils, you put this around near the base of the tree, the orange tree, about, you know, several inches up off the ground with wooden stakes holding it up off the ground. You have this side pointing towards the sun, angled slightly towards the sun, and this side away from the sun. No electronics or anything like that involved, just the copper coil where it's not touching. This works like a capacitor. It has to be copper. The copper actually brings in some kind of energies. When it reaches a critical amount of energy, it bridges the gap and it goes into the tree. Or if you're an individual wearing this, it goes into the individual. You don't feel nothing, but it's going on all the time. So I think with the addition of the Tesla coil and having an array of coils like this, or hoops, or whatever you call these things, that it actually is many, many, many more times strong. But just even this is why you'll see these on eBay or something, or whatever, in these health food stores. I think this gap is way too wide, though, on this. That's ridiculous. But I wear it anyway. I mean, I have no pains in my wrists or anything like that, you know, or my elbows or whatever. I have no pains anywhere, for crying out loud. But, you know, the deal is, I'm going to experiment with this for 15 minutes a day. Again, I said I set the spark gap on this in the back between the 2 tungsten coils, the 2 tungsten rods, excuse me, in the back there. I set it to a 1/16 of an inch. I got that information from somebody on the internet to advise me to do that. I know from the manufacturer of this in New Hampshire, amazing1.com, they said to set the spark gap at an 1/8 inch. But, you know, at 16 seems to run better, and it seems to run a little quieter. It is pretty noisy. Now, if I get this other one later on, if I use this 15 minutes a day, and I start noticing some drastic differences, you're not going to notice nothing after even a month or two. It might take 6 months or so. I'm going to say, well, it's worth it. Go for a better one. Go for one that has a sending and receiving coil that's pretty much closely, not exactly, but somewhat, well, I don't know. I think it's, from what I could tell, at least it's available to public. You can order them right now and get them. And I think they're, you know, it's not a big deal to get them. To me, the best bang for the buck is just this. It's a Parasapper 6-pack, though. I mean, I don't really know why this thing works so good. It's so damn simple. It's the size of a pack of cigarettes. I like using that 6-pack because I like using this 10,000 hertz frequency a lot. And 9,999 hertz is actually considered energy and vitality by the Consolidated Annotated Frequency List. So maybe that's why I'm feeling more energy when I'm using this a lot with the 10,000 hertz. I don't know, but it sure seems that way. I mean, I don't even feel like I'm very susceptible to cold anymore, for crying out loud. I walked outside. It was in the, I don't know, I was filling up my Perfection oil heater, kerosene oil heater. That was designed in 1913. I was outside, I don't know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, refilling it up. And it was in the mid-30s, or no, upper 30s. And I wasn't cold. I had on like a real light jacket, but I was out there probably about 15, 20 minutes doing that and feeding the cats again. And my little meow meows, I was out there. And normally, being a Floridian pretty much for the last, well, I've been Floridian for the last 2 decades plus, I would have felt cold. And now I don't feel cold. And I'm like, maybe that's another effect that's going on with this extensive use. But, maybe that's been another reason why I'm not going to notice much using this, because I'm already pretty damn healthy, right? But I am going to experiment with this for 15 minutes a day. I'm going to keep checking on that gap in the back where the tungsten rods are gapped. As we're past the 1/16 of an inch, I'll readjust them. And I got extra tungsten rods. I want to use this 15 minutes a day, every day, just once a day. I know this is not a true multi-wave oscillator, but like I said, I've seen historical photos of something where they had a small unit like this in a briefcase with 1 Tesla coil, where the doctor could take it to a patient. It does have some effect. And I think it's actually far more effective than the violet ray, which, although I know the AMA calls it a quack device today, I don't really buy into that, because I told you the whole deal how they still use it for, knocking out blemishes and wrinkles and stuff in the skin. Obviously, if it does that, it can heal other things, right? But, the AMA doesn't recognize it. So they can do whatever they want. I'm doing what I want. So I'm going to continue to use this. We're going to experiment. It's going to probably take, and if I notice something really radical, like, I don't know, I look like I'm 25 years old and I got a 29-inch waist and I got 8% body fat, well, I think then I'm going to say it works if something's going on. I don't know, but I feel pretty good. Actually, that's where I was before. I was at a 29, 30-inch waist at one point in time in my mid-50s, mid to late 50s, early, mid, and late 50s. That's where I was. I'm nowhere near, I'm not like that now at all, but I feel fine. I can tell you that right now. I mean, it's weird. I mean, I got, you would think I wouldn't feel fine, but I feel fine. So, probably between all the herbs and the vitamins and supplements and magnesium and, Magnesium Miracle and all that. And this thing I said, the carbon C60 in this thing I noticed, it's weird. I wasn't convinced with this thing for years. You know that? I was convinced with some of these things. I know the Beck thing, the Bob Beck blood electrifier, does give you energy, but it doesn't knock out that many microbes. No, this one really does knocks out microbes. But it does, the 10,000 hertz in a 6-pack does give you a lot of energy. So, when you use it a real lot, I didn't notice nothing unless I started using it 12, 15 hours a day. But, it's a way, it's kind of weird. Like, you probably get a full Lakhovky coil, like a really good one with the 2, sending array of coils with the Tesla coil on the back of it. Like, it's not, this is set up, I don't know. I know when they first manufactured these many years ago, this wire was actually hooked over here. And then somebody, a customer found out it worked way better putting it over here, so when they manufacture it, they put it here. And I kind of messed around with this. I had to, you see, I kind of bent these and stuff like that so it runs better. It actually, for what it cost, $1,000, to me it was well worth it. But we're going to start using it a lot more. And since I have it in a separate room, and I got it to run quieter with the smaller 1/16 of an inch gap, it's not going to scare the crap out of my cats that are inside the house. And that was one of the main reasons I wasn't using it, because they got scared. They were like, even if I closed the door, they were like, ooh, what's that? So if I get, if this turns out to work out really good and I use it extensively for a year, I'm going to say, well, I should opt for a better one. And the better one is going to run nice and quiet, but it will take up more room. but it's not going to take up that much room. So anyway, we'll see how this experiment goes. 15 minutes a day with this. See? Oh, it's not plugged in. Gotta plug it in. So, and I always unplug this because I never know if there's going to be some, even though this is off, I don't want something accidentally flipping it up like a cat or something. I don't know how they would do that, but you never know. And number two is, I don't want any kind of electrical surge from a lightning strike or something damaging this unit. So, you know, because, but I do like this simple one in a lot of ways because it doesn't have that many parts in it. If you look at it, there's not that much in here. I mean, this coil's not going to really break or anything. I don't see how. You know, one of these things might break or something one of these days, but you know, it's probably going to last a lot of hours. I mean, it might be good for 10,000 hours, and if you're using it 15 minutes a day, so what is that? You know, an hour every 4 days. I mean, that's you're talking like you know, 400 hours or wait a minute, not even that. That's nothing. That's nothing. So, you know, an hour of 10, less than 10 hours a month, you're talking not even 100 hours a year. So this thing could last a gazillion years if you're only using it 15 minutes a day. So, probably well worth it if it really does the job. But we shall see if I will upgrade or not. I'll actually post a link where I might upgrade to. But first, you know, let's experiment with this. And, you know, that's one reason I also say if you're going to be messing around with a zapper, that's this power zapper, the 6-pack with all the attachments with it, with the foot pads and all that type of stuff, and the wrist straps. That's probably the best one to get to experiment with, and you get something better. And that's where that's kind of like, you know, I don't like throwing a lot of money into something that I don't know is gonna work or not. You know, is it gonna do all the magic? But, you know, if you look back in the 1930s, this is like one of the biggest, most outstanding secrets ever. And really, it was developed by Nikola Tesla. I know George Lakhovsky's patent and everything, but, you know, it's just like, I mean, George Lakhovsky didn't steal the idea or nothing. He wasn't a Marconi like with radio waves. You know what happened with Marconi? He did not develop the radio anymore. You know, now they got Nikola Tesla as the guy that really did it. And George Lakhovsky was, you know, Nikola Tesla was given, you know, he was sharing this information, so he wanted to just get it out in the world. He was not a money guy, you know. And George Lakhovsky, there was great mutual cooperation between the two. And even when, you know, with so many things, I mean, I can't believe that, you know, this is not well known. I can't believe these aren't sold everywhere, like the real one, you know, with the two, you know, a sending set of array of coils and a receiving set of array of coils backed up by a Tesla coil on each side of them. It's amazing these are not sold all over the world, like and owned by millions and millions of people. But maybe they don't want us to live longer. You know, that's the other side of it too. I think there's some kind of freaking game going on that hold back the entire human race. Who knows? And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, this probably will boost your intelligence, too. If your face is, you know, like right about here and stuff, and you're receiving, you know, energies that enhance life, it's probably going to boost your intelligence, which actually leads to more productivity. So everything, and that's why you get, that's your return on the investment right there. Isn't that amazing? But nobody sees it that way unless they got a whole bunch of Hollywood stars out there pushing it on the, you know, on advertising left and right. You'll never see these devices sold. And actually, you know, Bill Gates, if he wanted to, he could have packaged this or something. He's an electronic wizard. This is nothing to him. I'll guarantee you Vladimir Putin has this technology. I want to say this at the end of this video. If you look at the joke with Vladimir Putin in Russia is, you know, who says there's no changes in politics or something, or politicians? The reason they say that is because Vladimir Putin looks like he's getting younger and younger. And there's speculation he's doing plastic surgery. You know what I think? I think he knows all about this technology, because this actually came from a Russian emigre. And One of the things, actually, a lot of Russians kind of associate themselves with is engineering. Engineering, you know. You'll see this all the time. Even people that are not engineers in Russia, they'll say, I'm an engineer. Or I was an engineer or something. Russians would be way into this stuff. I know Putin, I think he knows about it. I think he uses this all the time. That's probably part of his secret to health. I know he says it was deer antlers and stuff, but I think this is part of it. And also, there was an article back, I think it was 2015 on Business Insider, that the tech billionaires, the ones that really understand all this is like nothing to a techie, you know. I'm not really into this stuff. I probably could get into it, but I'm not into it. So this I could probably fix if it ever broke pretty easily. But the tech billionaires are bragging on Business Insider that they're going to live 1,000 years or live forever, and they have technology to do so. Now, I don't know about the multi-wave oscillator doing all that, but I think it would actually give you a true one. Would probably give you a couple more decades of vital living, energy-filled vital living without aging. But they brag they have all these methods to live 1,000 years or more, or even forever. And then they were showing on Business Insider how they're going to do it. And this is where I was thinking, well, they didn't tell you what they're really doing. They're eating whole foods, and taking vitamins and supplements. And I says, that obviously does help somewhat, but it's not going to give you 1,000 years. They were not telling us. And you know, if they're tech billionaires and they're saying it, you know it involves technology, not just, you know, herbs and food, right? So, I mean, this could be one thing. There could be other things. Like I said, I know about the frequencies that put the glutathione gene directly into the DNA, which actually is why we don't live 800-900 years old anymore, because if we had all 4 of the genes that produce the vitamin C and the glutathione, we'd live probably triple what we do now easily. Because if you take that capability out of any animal to produce their own vitamin C, I think it was, they live 3 to 4 times their adult, you know, maturity years, right? So in other words, say a person matures in 22 years, so 3 or 4 times would be 66 to 88. If you put in the full vitamin C production capability again, which we have all 4 genes to do that, and one of them is dormant, it would go 8 to 10 times the maturity, the 22 years. So 176 years to 220 years, or maybe even more. And they proved this with other animals, like, you know, maturity date with, I don't know, a cat is like, what, 1.5 years or something, or 2 years. You know, if you take 8 to 10 times 2, you know, that's 16 to 20 years, or 1.5 years, or whatever, would be, you know, 12 to 15 years, right? If you take that out of there, they only live 3 to 4 times, so they would only live like, you know, 5-6 years or something. Big difference. Big difference. There's ways to actually do it with electronics, theoretically, but they're not telling us everything. They're not telling the masses all this stuff. The elite keep it for themselves. You know, so I got a lot of hopes in Putin, though, because I mean, he might share it. You never know, man. But I think I think he knows some of this stuff. You look at that guy; he's about my age. Maybe was he a couple years older, or a couple years younger, or something? He's about my age. He's a pretty young looking guy, man. He knows what he's doing some more stuff than you would expect. But we'll be experimenting with this, and I'll post a link what I might buy if this seems to work really good for me after a period of time using it 15 minutes a day. I'll probably go to a more full-fledged unit.